The sun dipped low over Asheville, casting a warm glow on the bustling streets filled with laughter and the scent of local food vendors. I wandered through the festival, my heart heavy with the weight of a marriage that had become more of a routine than a partnership. The vibrant murals painted on brick walls seemed to mock my own stagnant existence. Couples strolled hand in hand, their joy palpable, while I felt like an outsider looking in. My husband had been distant lately, lost in his own world of work and obligations. Conversations had dwindled to practicalities: what to buy at the grocery store, when to schedule the car's next maintenance. I missed the spark we once shared, the easy laughter that now felt like a distant memory. As I meandered past booths showcasing local crafts and artisanal beers, I couldn't shake off a sense of longing for something more. That's when I bumped into him, Jake, my husband's friend and our family mechanic. He stood by a booth selling handcrafted tools, his easy smile cutting through my melancholy like sunlight breaking through clouds. "Hey there. Fancy seeing you here," he said, his voice warm and inviting. "Yeah, just trying to enjoy the festival," I replied, attempting to sound casual while my heart raced unexpectedly at his presence. We chatted about the festival's offerings, local bands playing bluegrass tunes and food trucks serving everything from barbecue to vegan delights. Jake's laughter was infectious. It wrapped around me like a comforting blanket. He spoke with passion about his love for mechanics and how he found joy in fixing things that others deemed broken. I listened intently, captivated by his genuine nature. As we stood there talking, I felt an unexpected connection forming between us, a spark igniting in the midst of my discontent. Jake leaned against the booth casually, his hands stuffed in his pockets as he shared stories about his latest projects at the garage. There was something refreshing about his authenticity that drew me closer. "Do you ever miss working on cars?" he asked suddenly, tilting his head slightly as if genuinely curious about my life outside this moment. I paused for a moment before responding. Sometimes, it feels like everything is just mundane. The truth hung between us like an unspoken agreement. "Life has a way of doing that," he said softly. "But you can always find ways to break free from it." His words resonated deeply within me. They echoed my own silent desires for change and excitement. A part of me wondered if this was just a fleeting encounter or something more significant waiting to unfold. As we continued talking, time slipped away unnoticed until I heard the faint sound of music drifting from nearby stages. It reminded me of how much I used to love dancing under twinkling lights with my husband before life got complicated. My thoughts drifted back to reality. My responsibilities at home awaited me, but standing there with Jake felt different. It felt alive. "I should probably get going," I said reluctantly, glancing at my watch as guilt crept in for indulging in this moment too long. "Yeah, me too," he replied with a hint of disappointment in his voice. "But maybe we could grab coffee sometime? Just to catch up." I hesitated briefly but nodded anyway. There was something thrilling about taking this small risk amidst my otherwise predictable life. "That sounds nice." As we parted ways, an inexplicable warmth lingered within me, a flicker of hope ignited by our brief exchange. My heart raced as I walked away from him. It was as if I had stepped into another world where possibilities existed beyond my mundane reality. Yet as excitement coursed through me, so did an unsettling feeling, a reminder that this newfound connection carried risks that could unravel everything I held dear. The thought of crossing lines blurred boundaries I had spent years constructing around myself. The festival continued around me, the laughter, music, and clinking glasses faded into background noise as thoughts swirled in my mind like autumn leaves caught in a whirlwind. What was happening? Why did Jake's presence feel so refreshing? Was this merely an escape from reality or something deeper waiting beneath the surface? I shook off those questions as best as I could but knew they would linger long after leaving that vibrant atmosphere behind, a reminder that change often comes disguised within unexpected moments. Driving home later that evening felt surreal, Each turn brought familiar sights but cast them under an entirely different light. The glow of possibility illuminated everything around me anew. Pulling into our driveway brought back memories tinged with nostalgia, late-night talks under starry skies and spontaneous adventures that once defined us as partners rather than just spouses navigating daily life together. Yet tonight felt different. I couldn't help but wonder if perhaps change was on the horizon after all, or if it would lead only down paths fraught with consequences too great to ignore. As night settled over Asheville and shadows danced across our quiet home front porch illuminated by soft light fixtures overhead, the weight of unfulfilled desires pressed heavily against my chest, leaving questions unanswered while beckoning toward potential futures yet unknown. The garage smelled of motor oil and metal, a stark contrast to the floral scents wafting from the garden outside. I stood there, my heart racing as I watched him work. The mechanic, with his easy laughter and genuine smile, had become a refuge for me, a place where I could escape the weight of my unfulfilled marriage. But guilt gnawed at the edges of my mind like a persistent shadow. "Need a hand?" he asked, glancing up from under the hood of my car. His hands were smudged with grease, yet he still managed to look effortlessly charming. I shook my head, feeling a rush of warmth at his attention. "No, just watching," I replied, forcing a lightness into my tone that didn't quite match the turmoil inside me. As he continued to tinker with the engine, I found myself drawn closer. The way he moved with confidence and ease made me forget about everything else, my husband's distant gaze across the dinner table, the silence that filled our home like an unwelcome guest. Here in this garage, surrounded by tools and parts waiting to be assembled into something functional again, I felt alive. "Want to give it a try?" he suggested suddenly, stepping aside and gesturing toward the open hood. "I could show you how it works." I hesitated but then stepped forward. The mechanics of cars had never interested me before, they seemed foreign and complicated. But there was something about being here with him that made me want to learn. As I placed my hands on the cold metal, his fingers brushed against mine briefly, a spark igniting between us that sent shivers down my spine. For just a moment, time stood still as our eyes locked in an unspoken understanding of what was happening between us. Then came the kiss, unexpected yet electric, an impulsive act that shattered any reservations I had left. It was quick but charged with emotion, an affirmation of everything we had been skirting around since that first chance encounter at the festival. "What are we doing?" I whispered when we pulled apart, breathless and wide-eyed. He looked at me seriously for a moment before responding. "I don't know," he admitted softly. "But it feels right." "Right?" The word echoed in my mind like a haunting refrain. How could something feel so right yet be so wrong? My heart raced as I contemplated this new territory, the thrill mingling dangerously with guilt. "I shouldn't be here," I said finally, stepping back as if distance could erase what had just happened between us. "Why not?" His voice held both challenge and concern. "You deserve to feel happy." His words struck deep within me, they resonated with truths I had buried beneath layers of obligation and routine. But happiness came at a cost that weighed heavily on my conscience as memories of my husband flashed through my mind like old film reels, shared laughter over dinner, quiet evenings spent reading side by side, once bright dreams dulled by time. "I need to think," I murmured as I turned away from him reluctantly. The tension hung thick in the air as I walked out of the garage and into the cool evening breeze that swept through Asheville's streets. Days passed since that kiss, each one heavier than the last, as guilt wrapped around me like an anchor pulling me down into murky waters. My husband remained oblivious to my internal struggle. He continued his routine without noticing how distant I'd become or how often I found excuses to visit the mechanic's garage under false pretenses. I told myself it was just curiosity, that learning about cars would somehow fill this void within me, but deep down, it was more than that. It was about connection, something real amidst all this pretense. When another weekend rolled around and brought with it another visit to his shop, excitement bubbled beneath my surface despite lingering doubts clouding my thoughts like storm clouds gathering overhead. As soon as I entered the garage again, however, those doubts began to dissipate in his presence. The warmth radiating from him felt intoxicating against my skin. "Hey there." He greeted warmly as if nothing had changed between us since our last meeting, a casual air masking unspoken tension simmering just below its surface. "Hi," I replied shyly while trying not to dwell too much on what had happened before or what might happen next. We fell back into our rhythm easily, discussing cars while sharing laughs over silly anecdotes from our lives, his stories tinged with humor reminding me how little joy existed within mine lately, and slowly but surely inching closer together once more until our hands brushed against each other's again amid laughter echoing off metal walls surrounding us both like protective barriers shielding us from reality outside those doors. But reality has a way of crashing in when least expected. Moments later, while we were still lost in conversation about engine troubles plaguing older models, a loud crash echoed through space followed by an unsettling silence hanging thick around us like fog rolling through mountains surrounding Asheville, before finally breaking apart abruptly as if someone flipped a switch turning off all warmth surrounding us instantly leaving only cold uncertainty behind instead. What was that? My voice trembled slightly despite efforts made earlier to maintain composure throughout this entire encounter filled mostly with light-hearted banter instead now replaced by anxiety creeping back into every corner previously untouched until now. "I don't know." He glanced toward where sound originated hesitantly before taking steps forward cautiously peering around corners searching for answers hidden somewhere beyond sightline even though deep down neither one wanted them revealed anyway. Not now. Not after everything shared already exchanged between two souls yearning desperately for connection amidst chaos swirling around them constantly threatening to pull apart pieces carefully sewn together over time spent together. Minutes passed uneasily until finally returning back toward each other again without words needing spoken aloud anymore knowing full well what lingered beneath surface remained unaddressed. The tension still palpable yet somehow comforting despite fear lurking just beyond reach waiting patiently for chance opportunity presented itself once more. As evening descended upon Asheville once more enveloping everything within its embrace darkness crept closer filling spaces left empty behind every glance exchanged silently asking questions neither dared speak aloud fearing consequences stemming from choices made, thus far leading inevitably toward paths unknown ahead. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over Asheville. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the wall, lost in thought. The thrill of what had just happened lingered in my mind, but so did the weight of my choices. Our lips met in that garage, a moment that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. I could still feel the warmth of his breath against my skin and the rush that came with it. Yet, a nagging voice reminded me of the life I had built, a life filled with promises and commitments. I glanced at my phone, half expecting a message from him. Each moment without contact felt like an eternity. What were we doing? I questioned whether this was merely an escape from my mundane reality or if it held something deeper. A part of me craved emotional closeness, something I hadn't felt in years. With each stolen moment, I found solace in his presence, but guilt seeped into those moments like shadows creeping across a room. My husband's voice echoed in my mind as I recalled overhearing him earlier that day. He had been on the phone with a friend, discussing our marriage, our struggles laid bare for someone else to hear. "It's like she's a ghost," he said, frustration lacing his tone. "I don't know how to reach her anymore." Those words struck me hard, they pierced through my self-justifications and left me feeling exposed. I knew he was right, I had become distant, drifting away from him in search of something I couldn't quite define. The connection I shared with the mechanic was intoxicating, a stark contrast to the silence that often filled our home. But as much as I wanted to embrace this new chapter, fear loomed large over me like dark clouds gathering before a storm. That evening, unable to shake off the uncertainty gnawing at my insides, I decided to take a walk through the Arts District. The vibrant murals and lively atmosphere reminded me of who I once was, a woman full of dreams and aspirations before life settled into predictable patterns. As I wandered past galleries filled with colorful canvases and sculptures, each piece seemed to whisper stories of passion and creativity that resonated within me. My thoughts drifted back to him, the mechanic whose laughter echoed in my mind long after we parted ways. We had shared more than just stolen kisses, there was an understanding between us that transcended words. Yet even as excitement bubbled within me at the thought of seeing him again, dread settled in like an unwelcome guest. "Hey there!" A familiar voice broke through my reverie as I turned around to see an old friend from college approaching me with a warm smile. "Sarah. It's been ages." We hugged tightly, her presence brought back memories of carefree days spent dreaming about our futures. "I heard you're back in town," she said as we walked side by side down the bustling street. "Yeah," I replied softly, trying to mask the turmoil brewing beneath my calm exterior. "Just visiting." "Visiting? Or escaping?" she asked playfully but with an edge of sincerity behind her eyes. I hesitated before answering her question honestly. Wasn't that exactly what I was doing? "Maybe a bit of both," I admitted finally. She studied me for a moment before nodding knowingly. "Life can get complicated sometimes." A wave of nostalgia washed over me as we reminisced about our youth, dreams untainted by adult responsibilities or heartache. But as much as her company brought comfort, it also intensified my internal struggle about where my heart truly lay. When our conversation drifted toward relationships, Sarah's eyes sparkled with curiosity. "Are you seeing anyone special?" The question hung heavily between us. How could I explain this tangled web without revealing too much? "Just someone from around here," was all I managed to say. Her expression shifted slightly. Was it concern or intrigue? "Well, if you need advice on matters of the heart," she began but stopped short when she noticed something behind me. Turning around instinctively, my heart raced as I spotted him across the street, the mechanic leaning against his truck with an easy smile plastered across his face as he waved at me like we were old friends reunited after years apart. "Speak of the devil," Sarah murmured under her breath before excusing herself politely and slipping away into the crowd. The moment felt surreal. Here he was, my secret wrapped up in casual attire and charm, his presence igniting butterflies deep within me despite all rational thought urging caution instead. I walked toward him slowly, excitement danced alongside apprehension. Every step closer brought forth questions swirling inside like leaves caught up in autumn winds. What if someone saw us together? What if this moment became more than just fleeting? "Hey," he greeted casually when we met halfway between our worlds, a garage and a marriage filled with unspoken truths lingering beneath surface tension waiting for release. "Hi," was all I could muster in response while trying not to betray any hint of what lay beneath our innocent exchange, the thrill hidden within every glance exchanged under watchful eyes nearby lurking just outside around corners where secrets thrived best. As we fell into easy conversation about mundane things, the weather and upcoming local events, I couldn't help but notice how natural it felt being near him compared to stilted dialogues exchanged at home lately, filled only silence punctuated by obligations unmet yet looming larger daily, demanding attention more than affection ever could provide anymore. But then reality crashed down upon us like thunder rumbling overhead, breaking illusion cast upon this brief reprieve. What would happen once night fell? Would we return back into shadows again, hiding away from prying eyes, watching closely, hoping for glimpses shared only between us? "I've missed you," he murmured, suddenly breaking through thoughts swirling inside, spiraling downward toward darkness, threatening engulf everything entirely, leaving nothing behind but echoes, memories fading fast away. His confession sent shivers racing down spine, igniting flames long extinguished, buried deep within, yearning desperately, seeking warmth rekindled after so many years spent wandering aimlessly, searching blindly through fog, uncertainty clouding judgment, blinding clarity, once held dear now slipping further away. "I've missed you too," slipped past lips almost involuntarily before catching myself wondering how far gone already lost amidst tangled emotions woven tightly together, pulling apart threads connecting lives once intertwined, now fraying edges unraveling, slowly revealing truths best kept hidden. And just then, a flash caught my eye, a glint reflecting light bouncing off something metallic positioned nearby unnoticed until now. My stomach dropped as realization hit hard. Someone might be watching us after all. The morning light filtered through the window, casting a warm glow over the room, yet it felt cold against my skin. I lay there, tangled in sheets, the faint scent of motor oil still lingering on my clothes from last night. Memories of laughter and whispered confessions flooded my mind, but alongside them loomed the weight of my reality. My husband's surprise trip was looming like a storm cloud on the horizon, threatening to drown out the fragile happiness I had found in those stolen moments with the mechanic. As I turned to face him, I caught a glimpse of his peaceful expression, completely unaware of the tempest brewing inside me. He looked so content, so at ease. It made me question everything. Was this fleeting connection worth the potential fallout? The thrill of our secret rendezvous had become intoxicating, but was it worth risking everything I had built? I slipped out of bed quietly, careful not to disturb him. The kitchen felt empty as I poured myself a cup of coffee. The familiar routine was comforting yet suffocating. Each sip reminded me of the mundane conversations and predictable life that awaited me outside these four walls. My phone buzzed on the counter, pulling me from my reverie. A message from my husband: "Can't wait for our trip. You're going to love it." A pang of guilt shot through me. How could I indulge in this secret while he planned something special for us? The juxtaposition felt like a betrayal that gnawed at my conscience. I stared at my reflection in the window, a woman caught between two worlds. Just then, a knock at the door startled me from my thoughts. It was too early for visitors. Curiosity piqued as I opened it to find a neighbor standing there with an awkward smile. "Hey. Just checking in on you," she said cheerfully. "Thanks," I replied, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. "Everything okay?" she asked with genuine concern. "Yeah, just busy," I managed to say before retreating back into the house. As she waved goodbye and walked away, an unsettling feeling settled in my stomach. Had she sensed something? Was it possible that someone knew about my late-night escapades? My heart raced as paranoia crept in. Every glance from neighbors felt like scrutiny now. I took a deep breath and tried to shake off the unease as I prepared for another day in this double life. At work later that morning, conversations buzzed around me like static noise, each word blending into another until they lost meaning entirely. My mind drifted back to him, the mechanic who had become both solace and complication. During lunch break, I found myself staring out at the street from our small cafe window when suddenly he appeared outside, his familiar silhouette cutting through the crowd like a beacon amidst chaos. He waved enthusiastically as he approached. Just seeing him sent warmth flooding through me despite everything else weighing on my heart. "Hey there," he said casually as he slid into the seat across from mine. "Hi," I replied softly, trying to mask how much his presence affected me. "I've been thinking about you," he admitted with a hint of mischief in his eyes. My stomach fluttered at his words, a dangerous thrill coursing through me once again. "Really?" "Yeah," he leaned closer, lowering his voice conspiratorially. "We should escape this town for a bit." The idea hung between us like an unspoken challenge. Part of me craved that escape while another part screamed against it. The consequences were too great. "I can't just leave," I murmured more to myself than him. His expression shifted slightly, concern flickered across his features before determination took hold again. "What if we just took one day? Just you and me?" I hesitated, every fiber within me wanted to say yes, but reality crashed down hard. My husband's plans loomed large over any whimsy we might entertain together. We spent the night together, echoed in my mind like an echo chamber amplifying guilt with every beat of silence between us now. "What's holding you back?" he pressed gently but insistently. "I don't know, everything?" The words tumbled out before I could stop them, my heart racing as vulnerability washed over me. He reached across the table and held my hand firmly yet tenderly, a gesture that ignited something deep within but also reminded me how precarious our situation had become. "You deserve more than what you have." The truth hung heavy between us, an undeniable connection forged amidst turmoil, but what did it mean? Did love even exist here or merely desire masked by desperation? Suddenly aware of time slipping away from us, anxiety clawed at my insides as lunchtime dwindled down to mere minutes left before we would have to part ways again into our separate lives filled with responsibilities and expectations neither one truly wanted anymore. "I have to go back soon," I said reluctantly while stealing glances around us, always wary now since that neighbor visit earlier felt like an omen warning against recklessness lurking nearby waiting for its chance to strike without remorse or hesitation whatsoever. With one last squeeze of his hand, a silent promise exchanged, we stood up together reluctantly leaving behind what could have been if only circumstances allowed us freedom instead shackles binding tight against our hearts yearning for something different beyond these walls confining dreams unfulfilled. As we stepped outside into bustling streets teeming with life around us, it hit hard again. That sense of being watched lingered still almost palpable hanging thickly above our heads casting shadows darker than any storm cloud ever could. I turned abruptly towards him suddenly overcome by urgency mixed with fear clawing at every thought racing through mind spiraling downward into chaos threatening everything we had built thus far even if only within fleeting moments shared between two souls seeking solace, amidst uncertainty raging all around. "Maybe we shouldn't meet again." Words escaped before caution could stop them spilling forth unbidden leaving behind silence pregnant with tension swirling thickly around us both unable yet unwilling to break free from this fragile connection forged within darkness hiding beneath surface waiting, patiently readying itself for inevitable fallout sure enough looming just ahead. I could hardly breathe as the weight of my decision lingered in the air between us. The garage, once a sanctuary, now felt like a cage. I glanced around at the familiar tools, each one a reminder of the moments we had shared, moments that were becoming increasingly complicated. "Maybe we shouldn't meet again," my voice trembled, betraying the calm facade I tried to maintain. I could see the flicker of disappointment in his eyes, but I was too consumed by my own turmoil to care. "Is that really what you want?" he asked softly, his tone laced with confusion and hurt. "I thought we had something special." The truth was, I didn't know what I wanted anymore. My heart was torn between the comfort of our connection and the guilt that gnawed at me like a relentless tide. The thrill of our secret meetings had dulled into a constant state of anxiety. Every moment felt like it could unravel everything. "I don't know," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. "Everything feels so complicated." He stepped closer, his presence both comforting and overwhelming. "We can figure this out together." There was a sincerity in his words that tugged at my heartstrings, but it only deepened my internal conflict. Just then, the sound of laughter drifted from outside, the familiar voices of my neighbors enjoying their Saturday afternoon. A pang of longing hit me, their carefree moments contrasted sharply with my tangled emotions. How did I end up here? I can't keep leading this double life, I admitted, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. It's exhausting. He looked away for a moment, processing what I had said. Then let's stop hiding, he suggested cautiously. We could take this further, be more than just secret lovers. The proposal hung in the air like an uninvited guest at a party. My heart raced at the thought, yet fear gripped me tighter than ever before. What would that mean for my marriage? For him? I can't just throw everything away, I murmured, shaking my head as if to dispel the idea. Why not? He pressed gently. You deserve happiness too. His words resonated deeply within me, igniting a flicker of hope amidst the chaos swirling around us. Yet another part of me recoiled at the thought of hurting my husband, my partner for so many years, who remained blissfully unaware of my inner turmoil. Before I could respond further, a sudden noise outside caught both our attentions, a car door slamming shut followed by footsteps crunching on gravel. My heart dropped as dread filled me. It was my husband returning home early from work. "We need to go," I said urgently, glancing toward the exit as panic surged through me. "Wait," he exclaimed softly but firmly, as if trying to anchor me in place before reality crashed down upon us. I hesitated for just a moment longer before bolting toward the door leading out into the fading light outside, our sanctuary now tainted by impending exposure. As I stepped into daylight and turned back for one last look at him standing there alone amidst shadows cast by fading sunlight filtering through metal beams overhead, my heart clenched painfully within my chest. A silent farewell whispered between us, unspoken yet understood. Once inside our home, normalcy enveloped me like an old blanket, despite its weight feeling heavier than ever before. Every creak from floorboards beneath felt amplified against silence stretching thin between us both as he settled down on couch while flipping through channels absent-mindedly. A mundane routine masking underlying tension simmering just below surface, waiting patiently, readying itself for inevitable confrontation looming ahead. "Hey," he called out, suddenly breaking silence after several moments passed since entering. His voice casual yet probing enough to catch attention without raising alarm bells ringing loudly inside, head warning against complacency creeping back in too easily after all that had transpired recently. "What did you do today?" The question seemed innocent enough but carried an undertone laced with curiosity, a hint, perhaps suspicion, lingering beneath surface, waiting patiently, readying itself for inevitable fallout sure enough looming just ahead. I forced myself to smile even though it felt strained, a mask slipping over features worn thin after countless rehearsals practiced behind closed doors, hidden from view where secrets thrived quietly, waiting patiently, readying themselves for inevitable exposure sure enough looming just ahead. "Just errands," came my reply too quickly. Guilt bubbled beneath skin, prickling uncomfortably against fabric worn thin from tension building up steadily over time spent navigating uncertain waters alongside choices made along way, threatening everything built thus far, even if only within fleeting moments, shared between two souls seeking solace amidst uncertainty raging all around. His eyes narrowed slightly as if weighing words exchanged carefully before responding. There was no mistaking intensity behind gaze fixated upon mine, searching for answers hidden deep within, shadows lurking just beyond reach, waiting patiently, readying themselves for inevitable fallout sure enough looming just ahead. "I've noticed you've been distracted lately," he ventured cautiously, probing deeper into territory fraught with danger lurking beneath surface, threatening everything built thus far, even if only within fleeting moments shared between two souls seeking solace amidst uncertainty raging all around. In that moment, I froze, the walls closing in around me, suffocating any chance at honesty escaping, lips trembling under weight pressing down heavily upon shoulders burdened far beyond capacity allowed by mere human limits, testing resolve, pushing boundaries further than ever intended possible, leaving behind nothing but fragments scattered across floorboards beneath feet, standing firmly planted ground, solidifying foundation laid long ago, crumbling slowly under pressure, mounting steadily, threatening collapse imminent if not addressed soon enough. "Just tired," came response finally escaping, lips barely above whisper, hoping would suffice, deflection skill honed over years spent navigating treacherous waters alongside choices made along way, threatening everything built thus far, even if only within fleeting moments shared between two souls seeking solace amidst uncertainty raging all around. Yet even as words left mouth, echoing faintly throughout space separating us both, I sensed unease growing palpable, thickening atmosphere surrounding like fog rolling in off mountains, shrouding everything beneath, veil obscuring truths lurking just beyond reach, waiting patiently, readying themselves for inevitable fallout sure enough looming just ahead. The tension hung thick in the air as I sat across from my husband at the dining table, the remnants of dinner untouched. The clinking of forks against plates felt like a distant echo, a reminder of the normalcy we once shared. But now, every sound seemed amplified, revealing the cracks in our facade. He looked at me, eyes narrowing with concern, and I braced myself for what was coming. "Is there something you want to tell me?" he asked, his voice steady but laced with an undercurrent of frustration. The question hung between us like a storm cloud ready to burst. I wanted to answer honestly, to confess everything that had been swirling inside me, but fear gripped my throat. I shook my head slowly, avoiding his gaze. "No," I managed to say, though the word felt hollow. How could I explain what was happening? The thrill of stolen moments with someone else had become both a refuge and a prison. Each time I saw him, the mechanic, I felt alive. Yet here, in this moment with my husband, I was suffocating. He leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms tightly over his chest. "You've been distant lately." His tone shifted slightly, it was softer now but still probing. "If there's something wrong, we can work through it together." The irony stung sharply. He didn't even realize how much distance had grown between us long before I met anyone else. But even as those thoughts raced through my mind, another nagging worry crept in. What if he knew? What if he suspected? My heart raced at the thought. "I'm just tired," I replied again, hoping this would quell his suspicions. It was true enough, tired of pretending, tired of holding on to something that no longer fulfilled me. He sighed heavily and ran a hand through his hair, a gesture I recognized well from countless arguments where we danced around unspoken truths. "I found a missed call on your phone earlier," he said quietly. From him. The world tilted beneath me as panic surged through my veins. My mind raced back to that afternoon in the garage when laughter filled the air and we shared secrets beneath the hood of my car. How could something so innocent feel so dangerous? "Who?" I asked too quickly, feigning ignorance while dread settled deep in my stomach. "The mechanic." His voice dropped an octave as he stared me down. Silence enveloped us as realization washed over me like cold water. This wasn't just about me anymore, it was about us and everything we'd built together over the years. My heart pounded louder than ever as I struggled to find words that could mend what felt irreparably broken. We were just talking," I stammered finally, desperate for an explanation that wouldn't completely unravel everything. He shook his head slowly as if absorbing each word before responding. "Talking doesn't explain why you've been avoiding me for weeks." His words cut deep, they echoed truths I had tried to bury beneath layers of denial and fleeting excitement found elsewhere. The weight of guilt pressed heavily on my shoulders as shame flooded through me, shame for what I had done and shame for what I hadn't yet faced. "What do you want from me?" My voice trembled slightly as frustration bubbled up inside me like boiling water threatening to overflow. "I want honesty," he replied firmly but gently, a plea rather than an accusation. In that moment of vulnerability between us, clarity struck hard, how fragile our trust had become amid all these secrets and lies, a delicate web threatening to unravel at any moment. As if sensing my internal battle raging within, he softened again and leaned forward slightly, his expression shifting from frustration to concern once more, but it didn't erase the reality looming over us both. "Please tell me what's going on," he urged quietly. I opened my mouth to speak but found no words came forth. Instead came flashes of memory, the mechanic's laughter ringing in my ears paired with moments spent alone together amidst oil-stained tools and half-finished projects. The tightness in my chest grew heavier still as visions danced before me, a life lived outside these walls where hidden desires thrived unchecked by societal expectations or marital commitments. A sudden thought pierced through all this chaos. What if someone else knew? What if someone had seen us together? Panic surged anew at the idea that our secret might already be exposed beyond these four walls, beyond just him and me, and into the world where judgment awaited eagerly like vultures circling overhead readying themselves for inevitable fallout. "I need some air," I finally whispered before rising abruptly from my seat without waiting for response, my heart racing faster than ever as dread filled every fiber within. Outside on our porch overlooking the quiet street below where neighbors went about their evening routines oblivious to turmoil brewing within our home. I took deep breaths trying desperately to calm myself down while battling thoughts spiraling out control like leaves caught in gusty winds. Then it happened, a flash caught out of corner of eye drew attention away from worries swirling inside. Across street stood an unfamiliar figure seemingly engrossed by something on their phone while glancing intermittently towards our home. My heart dropped once again, a sense of foreboding creeping up spine making skin prickle uncomfortably beneath layers worn against cool evening breeze. Was someone watching? Had they seen us? The thought sent shivers down my spine. Suddenly everything felt more precarious than before, as if threads connecting past choices stretched thinner by each passing second, threatening inevitable unraveling leading straight into public scrutiny awaiting just beyond horizon. I turned back toward house where shadows flickered dimly behind curtains casting doubt upon every familiar corner once filled warmth now only harboring uncertainty. My husband stood there framed against doorway watching me closely, an unspoken question hanging heavy between us both asking whether truth would emerge or remain buried beneath layers deceit woven tightly around heart's yearning connection lost somewhere along way. As darkness fell upon Asheville cloaking streets familiar yet foreign now, I stood frozen at precipice facing crossroads unsure which path would lead toward resolution or further entanglement into chaos already begun unfolding around us both. The tension in the air was palpable as my husband shifted his weight, his eyes narrowing slightly. "Are you going to tell me what's going on?" he asked, his voice steady but laced with an urgency I couldn't ignore. The question hung there, a heavy anchor dragging me down into the depths of my own choices. I hesitated, searching for words that would bridge the chasm between us. Could I explain the longing I felt? The thrill of stolen moments spent in the garage with the mechanic? Each memory of laughter and warmth felt like a betrayal now, tainted by the impending fallout. My silence spoke volumes as I stood there, trapped in a web of my own making. As night descended upon Asheville, I sought refuge in the familiar streets. The vibrant murals and bustling galleries that once inspired me now felt like a backdrop to my turmoil. I wandered aimlessly, seeking clarity among the colorful chaos. My thoughts were muddled, a storm brewing within me as whispers of doubt echoed louder than ever. A soft ping from my phone broke through my spiraling thoughts. An anonymous message flashed across the screen. "You should know there's a video." My heart sank as panic coursed through me. What video? The realization hit hard. Someone had captured moments meant to be hidden away from prying eyes. My mind raced back to our secret meetings in the garage, where laughter mingled with vulnerability beneath the flickering fluorescent lights. I turned on my heel and hurried back home, dread pooling in my stomach. The thought of exposure loomed large, threatening to unravel everything I had kept so carefully tucked away. As I entered our house, I found my husband still standing in the doorway, arms crossed and expression unreadable. "Are you okay?" he asked softly, concern edging into his voice. "Just tired," I replied, forcing a smile that felt more like a grimace. "You're not just tired," he pressed gently but firmly. "Something's bothering you." The weight of unspoken truths pressed heavily on my chest. How could I explain this tangled mess without shattering what little stability we had left? Instead of answering him directly, I glanced away toward our living room, the space where we once shared dreams and laughter now felt like a prison. "I just need some space," I finally managed to say. His brow furrowed deeper as he stepped closer. "Space? Or are you pushing me away?" In that moment, frustration bubbled up inside me, a mixture of guilt and anger at myself for letting things spiral so far out of control. "I don't know." The words escaped before I could stop them. He took a step back as if struck by my sudden outburst. "What does that even mean?" My heart raced as tears threatened to spill over. This was not how I envisioned our life together unraveling. "It means everything feels broken," I admitted quietly. He stared at me for what felt like an eternity before responding with barely contained emotion. I can help fix it if you let me. Fixing it seemed impossible now, too many cracks marred our foundation. Yet here he was, offering support when all I wanted was to run away from it all and bury myself in denial. I don't know how to fix this, I whispered, feeling defeated. Then let's figure it out together, he urged gently. But could we really? A part of me wanted desperately to believe we could mend what was broken while another part clung tightly to memories of stolen kisses and quiet confessions shared under the hood of an old car, the mechanic's hands guiding mine as we worked side by side. As if sensing my turmoil, he reached out and took my hand in his own warm grasp, a gesture meant to reassure but only deepened my internal conflict further still. I need you, he said softly. Sincerity laced every word spoken between us, now hanging delicately over our heads like an unsteady chandelier ready to crash down at any moment. I need you too, came out almost instinctively without thought, yet those words carried weight far heavier than either one of us anticipated. A sudden noise outside broke through our moment, sharp laughter erupted from neighbors gathered around their fire pit nearby. Their carefree joy contrasted sharply against our despairing reality inside these walls that felt increasingly suffocating with each passing second. Let's talk later, he said finally after glancing toward the window where shadows danced beyond glass panes, his voice steady despite trembling emotions swirling around us both still unresolved amidst fleeting moments filled with uncertainty about what lay ahead if truth ever surfaced fully into light again someday soon. The night wore on slowly. Sleep eluded me as thoughts spiraled endlessly through restless hours spent staring blankly at ceiling tiles above while wrestling internally against guilt gnawing deeper within, heart aching for resolution yet fearful consequences looming closer every day, now threatening everything built over years past. Morning light filtered through curtains casting soft rays across room filled with memories both cherished yet tainted by choices made under cover, darkness too long ignored until they finally caught up fast enough, leaving behind wreckage scattered everywhere, waiting patiently for reckoning come due soon enough. When dawn broke fully across Asheville, illuminating streets anew outside, I found myself standing before bathroom mirror brushing strands hair absent-mindedly, lost within thoughts racing ahead toward unknown future awaiting just beyond horizon line drawn faintly ahead somewhere far off, still hidden from view. Then came another ping from phone, disrupting silence, a reminder reality remained ever present no matter how much wished otherwise. You should see this. My breath hitched painfully, caught somewhere between disbelief and dread as fingers trembled reaching for device held tightly within palm while mind churned rapidly, contemplating consequences inevitable should choice made lead directly into path exposed fully without warning. What awaited beyond next corner turned life upside down forevermore remained unclear, yet undeniable truth loomed larger than ever, threatening collapse, entire world built around fragile foundations already cracking under pressure, waiting patiently ready strike when least expected, bringing forth chaos unleashed upon unsuspecting lives forever changed. Standing there frozen at edge precipice once again, I faced crossroads anew, unsure which path would ultimately lead toward resolution or further entanglement into chaos already begun unfolding around us both. Standing at the edge of the precipice, I could feel the weight of my choices pressing down on me. The mechanic's garage, once a sanctuary filled with laughter and stolen moments, now felt like a cage. I had to confront him one last time. The air was thick with unspoken words as I stepped inside, the familiar scent of motor oil wrapping around me like a shroud. "Do you really care about me?" I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. "Or is this just a distraction for you?" He looked up from the hood of a car he was working on, his hands stained with grease. "You know it's more than that," he replied softly, but there was a tension in his voice that suggested uncertainty. "But we both have lives to consider." I took a deep breath, my heart racing. What does that even mean for us? Can we really have something real? The question hung in the air between us, heavy and unresolved. His gaze shifted to the floor as if searching for an answer in the concrete. "I want to be with you," he admitted finally. But it's complicated. You're married. The reminder stung more than I expected. My marriage had been crumbling beneath me for years, yet here was this man who had shown me warmth and understanding when I felt invisible at home. But now, standing in front of him, all the complications loomed large: my husband's loyalty, our shared history, and the impending consequences of our actions. I'm tired of being caught between two worlds, I confessed, my voice trembling slightly. I need to know if there's a future for us or if we're just living in this moment. He stepped closer, a mixture of longing and regret etched across his features. I don't want to hurt you, he said earnestly. But what we have can't last forever. The truth settled heavily in my chest, every word felt like a nail driving deeper into my heart. The reality was undeniable, our secret couldn't remain hidden forever. Just then, my phone buzzed in my pocket, a message from an unknown number that made my stomach drop. Meet me at the brewery tonight if you want to know the truth. My pulse quickened as panic surged through me. Who could it be? What truth were they referring to? I glanced back at him, his expression mirrored my own confusion and fear. What is it? He asked, sensing my distress. It's nothing, I lied quickly but felt the heat rise in my cheeks. Don't hide things from me, he pressed gently but firmly. I'll tell you later, I promised as dread settled over me like a dark cloud. The weight of our conversation lingered as I left the garage behind, uncertainty clawed at my insides like an uninvited guest refusing to leave. My mind raced with possibilities. Was someone going to expose us? Would my husband find out before I had a chance to make things right? As evening fell over Asheville, the vibrant colors of sunset painted the sky, a stark contrast to the turmoil within me. The local brewery buzzed with life, laughter floated through open doors as patrons gathered around tables filled with mugs clinking together. I found myself sitting alone at a corner table, anxiety gnawing at me while trying to focus on anything other than what awaited me later that night. The familiar surroundings, the smell of hops and roasted barley, felt foreign under these circumstances. A few minutes later, he walked in, his presence instantly commanding attention even amid laughter and chatter surrounding us both. He spotted me immediately and made his way through the crowd with purpose. What did they say? He asked breathlessly as he slid into the seat across from mine. I don't know who they are, I admitted quietly while stealing glances around us as if expecting someone to jump out from behind one of those colorful murals adorning nearby walls. But they hinted at knowing something about us. His brow furrowed deeply, concern etched into every line on his face mirrored mine perfectly as we both grappled with what lay ahead. Do you think it's someone from your neighborhood? His voice dropped low enough that only I could hear him amidst all noise surrounding us, an intimate moment shared despite chaos outside these walls. I don't know. Frustration bubbled up inside me again, emotions were spiraling out of control faster than I could keep track of them anymore. What if they show everyone? What if? Stop. He reached across the table and took hold of my hand firmly yet tenderly, his touch grounding amidst rising panic swirling within us both now threatening to consume everything we had built together so far despite its fragility already exposed under scrutiny looming closer every second ticking by unrelentingly onward toward inevitable confrontation awaiting just around corner ahead. We'll figure this out together, he assured quietly but firmly looking directly into eyes searching for reassurance even while uncertainty loomed large overhead casting shadows upon everything else surrounding our fragile connection built upon trust now threatened by outside forces beyond control. Neither one could ignore any longer either way forward leading toward resolution or disaster waiting patiently lurking behind corners unseen until too late. As those thoughts raced through mind endlessly repeating themselves over again like echoes reverberating off walls closing tighter around heart pounding against ribcage feeling trapped between two worlds pulling apart rapidly threatening collapse entire existence built so delicately upon foundations already cracked beneath pressure mounting steadily upward toward breaking point inevitable soon approaching without warning leaving little time left remaining before final decisions needed made. Just then another buzz broke through silence enveloping moment shared between us pulling attention away momentarily back towards screen glowing brightly illuminating face reflecting anxiety mirrored within depths eyes staring back pleading desperately searching answers. Nowhere found instead leaving questions unanswered lingering still hanging heavily above heads waiting patiently ready strike when least expected bringing forth chaos unleashed upon unsuspecting lives forever changed.